Journalists are special people. They're obviously smart. They could probably make a lot more money doing different things, but they choose to be a part of a storytelling enterprise, and we get the benefit of that passion right now.
Hi, I'm Kristen Taylor, and this is a Night Pulse video conversation. Today we're here with Scott Lewis of The Voice of San Diego. Hi, Scott. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about what happened when you first got started.
At first, we were started by a guy who was a columnist at the Union Tribune, a longtime columnist at the local major daily paper, and a philanthropist named Buzz Woolley, who they both had dabbled with the idea of starting a newspaper after the columnist had been unceremoniously dismissed from his place in that paper, and we decided they decided instead to do an online effort and focus. A newspaper spends 60 to 70, 80% of its revenue or its budget on just producing and distributing the paper itself. So they realized that there was probably more value, more efficiency if they just put it online, but yet staffed it professionally. At first, though, it was a little hard. It didn't take. It was a little. The mission wasn't quite clear. The identity wasn't quite clear. But we did luckily define ourselves with great coverage of the city of San Diego, which was struggling under a lot of scandals and such. And after the first CEO and editor left, Andy and I took over in November of 2005. That's Andrew Donahue. So that was several months after the first start, and we really focused it in on a mission of public accountability reporting, public affairs, and things like that. So we decided not to cover anything basically unless A, we could do it better than anyone else, or B, no one else was doing it. And unfortunately, that gap has gotten a lot larger over the last several years. There are obviously a lot of organizations popping up trying to do something similar to what we're doing. There's a gap in local news coverage, and they're trying to fill it. But there's different philosophies right now. Do you hire veteran reporters and try to pay them some freelance type contract issues, or do you hire full-time employees? We decided to go with the full-time employee model, at least for the core of our operation. We do have freelance on the side, but we believe that people, working in a beat and developing their topics and developing their sources and such, provide for the investigative focus that provide for the kind of resources that we need to get investigative news and public accountability reporting done. So that's been our focus, and we've been lucky enough to hire some very talented and interesting people, some of whom right out of college, but now we're actually hiring veterans too. But we've had very little turnover, and they've been able to work in their beats now for sometimes 2 or 3 years, and really develop some sources and make an impact. And so we have 6 full-time reporters right now, a content producer that helps manage our site, and then a full-time photographer. And I think that we're going to try to expand this year if a few things fall into place. So it's an environment unlike any I've been in since college, really, of a united team with a common mission, and just we're really excited about what each other's working on. There's no greater experience for me than when I watch a reporter come back and he or she's just been looking through some documents, and their eyes are big and they're excited about having discovered something really interesting, and that's just a daily occurrence now, and everybody fights each other's battles with them. If you hear one of your colleagues yelling on the phone and with somebody that won't provide information or something like that, everybody gets riled up, and it's a very cohesive group. And one of the things I'm most proud of, it's that we have such passion and loyalty, and we all realize now too, as the industry has so much trouble, that we're in a position to help provide a model of what might be able to replace at least part of what's being lost, and that's another thing that helps. We're forming an alliance and working hard to form an alliance with the partners that have emerged around the country: Chicago, Minnesota, New Haven, St. Louis. and then the myriad others from Texas to San Francisco to Baltimore to others that are trying to put together something. So we think of it as a, it's definitely gonna solidify into something national, but with local entities. We're just trying to figure out, you know, how to do it.
So when you say an alliance, who do you mean? Who's in that alliance?
Well, Minnesota, the minpost.com, the St. Louis Beacon started. They flew some people out here when they were trying to figure out how to do what they were going to do, and they talked to us, and they formed the St. Louis Beacon, New Haven Independent in New Haven, Connecticut, and the Chi-Town Daily News in Chicago. And so we've agreed in principle to unite and seek. We would like to help cultivate other entities around the country. So because I get a call once every week or so from somebody who's interested in forming something like this, and so we would like to have a more professionalized way of responding to them and helping them, really cultivate if they can. And then, in addition, we also have shared problems and shared issues. For instance, we all need libel insurance. We all need technical support. Maybe someday we'll have a lawyer on staff that could help us, protect ourselves from defamatory issues. I mean, when you're doing investigative reporting, these kind of things come up.
So tell me about successes that you've had, stories that have gone really well.
Well, our this summer was probably our most dramatic example of that. I could name dozens and dozens of little impacts, but this summer we had been investigating a local government agency, a redevelopment agency, for a couple of years, and come out with stories that I thought were pretty big deals. But we finally did an investigation where we found that the person in charge of this government agency, it's a redevelopment agency in charge of enhancing and helping cultivate a poor neighborhood and make it stronger. And we found that they had that the person in charge had been giving herself and her top staff a clandestine series of bonuses that weren't either disclosed or approved by the board of directors of that agency, and nor by the city council that directly oversees it. And turns out several $100,000 had been sort of distributed this way. And the story came out, and immediately when the story came out, the mayor demanded answers of the agency. After a couple of weeks, the CEO was ousted from her position, and then the board was completely overhauled. And now the FBI has seized computers and is investigating. It was a really intense period, and the city changed, I think, dramatically just from our reporting. That spurred a few months ago, or just last month, the New York Times came out and did a story about those impacts and our impact on the community, and it was a big deal.
So what happens after a story? Does it then get picked up in more traditional press after that?
Sure. When we have a working partnership with the local NBC affiliate, so we every day now actually go on TV and talk about our stories with them, and then we our stories are always picked up by the local paper and by other TV stations, and that's how we measure our impact and our reach. It's not just how many readers we have specifically, it's what did our message, did our story get out, and we can measure our direct readership, and then we can measure our reach of how far the story actually took.
It's voiceofsandiego.org.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks, Kristen.